Hi, everybody. This is Vladimira Kuna, and we have a soon-to-be international best-selling author, Deb Birdsall, who is launching her new book called "Overcoming My Mother's Addiction." And the launch day is the September the 8th. And she has written this amazing, she's going to tell you more about it in a second, book. And she collaborated it with her, is it 11-year-old granddaughter, Lily? Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Vladi. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Tell us more about your absolutely brilliant book, and the message you have is just fantastic.
This book is incredible. It really is already touching the lives of those that I have shared it with. And I can't wait to get it out to the world. This is not a book for the purpose of selling a book. This is a book for the purpose of creating a mission, a ministry, a movement throughout the world. This book is about Lily, my 11-year-old granddaughter, and in the first 10 years of her life, truthfully, we adopted her last October. My 75-year-old husband and I adopted an 11-year-old, and that, although it has its challenges, has such joy that comes with it. And the book is about how my granddaughter has dealt with tremendous adversity in the first 10 years of her life, and because of her mother's choice to use drugs, and the lessons that she has learned, and how she is using those lessons in order to move forward into a place of peace and contentment and joy in her life. So although the book is heart-wrenching, and it is, those that I have shared it with have said that it has brought them to tears, but at the same time, they tell me that it just inspires them. It just gives them so much hope. And honestly, right now, Vladi, we have so many young people out there that are dealing with this very same topic. So it breaks your heart when you think about the children and the adverse childhood experiences that they're going through in their families. And many of them don't even know that what they're experiencing is not normal. It's not healthy. That's all they know. And so this book is meant to inspire them to recognize that they don't need to allow their parents' choices to define their life, their present life or their future life. So that's the main purpose of the book. But I have three other audiences that I reach out to as well.
Before I let you go further, I really, really love to appreciate you and in front of everyone, because to actually find the strength, and not just strength, but to actually have an intention to impact the world with the message, which is really, really required, really needed, and especially through a life of someone who's gone through it. And I've read The Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and I actually had a conversation with Neil Donald Walsh, which was amazing. And he said sometimes, even when because obviously he will ask the question, like, sometimes something happens at the beginning of the life, like Lily, and we sort of think like, where is God, or where is the source at that innocent child's life? You do question it. And he said sometimes some things are happening because the greatness that comes out of it. We, like you said, it's the choices we make. And I love that you adopted her, and how much you're helping her by even telling her that she can make a choice. She found herself, well, she didn't find herself in there, but she is so blessed to have you in a life and have this guidance, and how many lives she's going to impact, because people look up to her and get the message 10 times more powerful than from an adult. So yeah.
Oh, it's true. You're absolutely right. So when I, interestingly enough, I want to share with you how this book came to be. Okay, I was on a weekend call with Peggy McCall and Phil Goldfine, and they said, okay, tell me a little bit about yourself. And so I told them who I was, and I said, now what you need to know is I am going to write a book. And I said, this book is going to be so incredible. This book is going to be made into a movie. It is going to touch the hearts and lives of so many people. And at the time, what I thought I would be writing about was the process that my husband and I have gone through to protect my granddaughters because of their mother's choices. I really thought that that was the book. It was going to be from my perspective, and it was going to be just an incredible, well, actually probably a mini series with everything we've gone through. So I went to bed that night, and at 3:33 in the morning, which is when I always get my angel promptings. That's what I call them, my angel promptings. Yeah. I woke up from a sound sleep and I went, okay, all right, because I knew, I had this knowing that this book was not going to be written about me and about my husband, but this book was going to be written about my granddaughter and from her voice and her perspective. And I got up that very moment and I started writing. And it was the most interesting experience because I've experienced it once before, but I started typing and I call it automatic writing. It came through me. It absolutely was not something that I had to think about. It just came through me. In fact, I had to laugh because when I had to write the authors about the authors page for the book, I had a harder time with that than I did writing the entire book.
I believe that.
And so I sat down and I started writing, and I didn't it took me a couple months to get it to where I really wanted it to be. And I told Lily about it, and she asked me, she said, "Grandma, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm writing a book." And I didn't even tell her it was about her at first. And she said, "Why are you writing a book?" I said, "Because we're going to help a lot of people." And she said, "Okay." And I said, "And you know, the way the universe works," I said, "it is going to come back to us to be able to help even more people from whatever money comes in off of it." And I said, "I am envisioning, Lily," because I'm all about creating. I'm envisioning, Lily, that eventually we're going to get a check for $3 million for this book, I told her. And you know what she did, Vladi? She looked at me just as serious as all get out and said, "No, Grandma, 5.
Manifester. She's a master manifester already.
I know. And I said, "Well, honey, I'd be happy with 3." And she goes, "No, it's going to be 5. And, and it cracked me up. And I said, "But the interesting thing is when that money comes in, of course, we don't ever say if, yes. When that money comes in, we're going to use it to travel around the world and do polio drops in the mouths of children in Africa. We're going to use it to build hospitals and schools in Mexico. We're going to use it to do clean water initiative in Haiti. And we're going to travel for fun as well. I mean, that will be fun in itself." I said, "You're going to have the job of picking out the charities that we want to give to. And if it's a local charity," I said, "then we're going to go volunteer for a day. We are going to have so much fun with this because this is meant to be. We're going to help so many people. But more importantly, we're going to be able to just exist in this world as someone who makes a difference. And that's the most important thing."
I love that. Not when you have the money. I'm going to correct you there. Say, I am already having the money because the money.
Oh, I thought I did.
And I am one of your volunteers. I love what you said. And I love the vision as well. You have it really clearly said. The intention is phenomenal. Helping others, impacting others' life, and this is what really is so important, to actually be this example, be the source. You're talking a source. You are source, you're creator. You know what you will desire. You know what is it for, and this is why actually universe always repays people multiplied, because you got that. It's just so pure. I love everything you said, and from what she's gone through, and obviously I'm we'll be studying as well. It's like first 3 years are so crucial, and kids don't have any consciousness developed. So, like everything goes into subconscious, and then they function on these beliefs and paradigms and limitations, until they actually start developing the consciousness. But having someone around like you who actually shows her, and this is what it comes to these days, and that's why I love your message, because it's like working with parents. Parents go like, "Well, I need to change my children." No, you need to change yourself.
That's right.
Really, me, me, like, why does it always have to be me? Because that is how it works. You can only change you and no one else, no one else. But kids speak on it. I can see it on mine. Wherever I went through, it's not me telling them 100 times. They've got this beautiful ignorance. I'm going to say it innocently, because we sometimes should learn it. You know, like when we want to manifest something and we're putting into the universe what we don't want. And kids just ignore it. They know what they want. And that's what Lily, she said, I want 5, grandma. I want 5. And she knows she wants 5 million. She doesn't need to discuss why not 3. She knows she wants 5. And it's that knowing she will have it.
Oh, she will. I have no doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. And it's going to be it is so much fun. Not going to be, it is so much fun to watch it begin to manifest. It, you know, Bob Proctor talks about the seed, and it takes time to germinate the seed. And so I'm seeing this, and now we have this little plant, and it's this beautiful little plant, and this plant is just going to grow into this magnificent, magnificent creation. And so I wanted to tell you that there are 3, well, actually 4 audiences. So the first audience that we're reaching out to obviously is the teens and the preteens that are experiencing this right now. The second audience that I really want to connect with are the grandparents that are raising grandchildren. I mean, I don't know how it is there, but in this country, honey, there are so many grandparents that are raising their grandchildren because of addiction in the family. And so I want these grandparents to be affirmed. I want them to recognize and be recognized for the sacrifice that they are giving in order to take their grandchildren in and raise them and show them a better path in life. And I also want them to be able to understand better what their grandchildren may have experienced and maybe why they're acting the way that they're acting. Because as we know, and you studied this, it's not about what's the matter with you. You know, it's about what has happened to you. What has happened to you? And so the purpose of this is to help these grandparents to understand their grandchildren better, to have better empathy for them, not just sympathy, and to be less reactive and more responsive when their grandchildren do things that they just don't feel is appropriate.
I absolutely love the word empathy, because I think that is the key in parenting and grandparenting. It's when you empathetic and you say to them, even to kids, and they say, oh, but you know, I can't do. It's when you actually feel with them and say, oh, I understand how this feels. However, there are certain things we have to, and the way you put it, and you're talking about response as well, as opposed to reaction. You know, reaction just creates resistance, and they come with this ignorance, which we just actually mentioned. And it is just brilliant for the grandparents, what you said. I think the awareness is very important, because people don't know other people's story. And sometimes if you do not understand, how can you deal with sympathy? It comes from the understanding. And if we actually have understanding of the issue and problems, that's where we can actually connect and tackle it the right way. I love that. What was the 4th audience?
Well, so that was the second audience, is the grandparents. The third, that's okay. The third audience that I really want to impact and reach out to are the school teachers and the counselors, because I want them, and this book is written, it's a very simple book. It is only about 60 pages long, and it has amazing illustrations that'll just touch your heart. But I designed it so that each chapter is only about a page and a half, because what I want and what I envision happening is that teachers and counselors are going to be able to read this with even younger children, and through that process help them to open up the lines of communication to share what is going on in their homes, so that they can get them the help that they need at a much younger age, instead of waiting until they're a teenager and things are so embedded, and they may already be making choices that aren't healthy for them. So that's the third audience. The 4th audience, and I have to tell you, it's going to make me cry when I tell you, but we've already had one miracle happen around this book. Okay. The 4th audience is, I envision that this book will ultimately be required reading in every drug rehabilitation center in the world. Okay. And my goal, my overarching goal is that anytime somebody who is either newly into recovery and perhaps is debating on whether to stay in recovery or go back to using, or perhaps is using and is thinking about going into recovery, that when they read this, that they will say, you know what, I don't want to do this to my children anymore. And they stay in permanent recovery. That is my big goal. That is my huge goal. And so I had not told my daughter about this book because I fully expected that in her state of using, that she would not be receptive to it and she would push back against it. And I wanted to wait until it was done before I shared it with her. Well, she found out about it when I started posting about it on social media, and she got hold of me and she said, now my daughter's 33 years old. She's been using drugs since she was 11 by her own admission. And it's tragic what it has done, to her life, because she's just the most beautiful soul, just the most beautiful soul. And so she wanted to know if she could read the book. And so I had her come over and I allowed her to read the manuscript. And when she came out of the office, she had tears in her eyes. They were just rolling down her face. And I said, is there anything that you would like to share with me? Anything you'd like to say? And she said, yeah. She said, I am so happy that Lily is getting this out of her. Because she said, I know from personal experience that when you hold things inside, you tend to make bad choices. And she said, so I'm glad, that Lily is doing this. And she said, and I really do hope that it does help a lot of people. Now that was incredible. I mean, that is not something that it's something I believed would eventually happen, but it surprised me when it happened. And so to me, that's the first miracle of the book. And I hope that it really does help her with her healing journey as well. So already this book is making an impact, and it's not even out there in the public.
No, and people know about it already. I love it already. And it's powerful. And this is, and I love what you were talking earlier about quality. It doesn't matter how long the book is. You can get a powerful message across in few pages. And it's about how many lives it touches and how many lives it changes. Well, changes, it does. People have to want to change. We all know this. So right. It does come down where you have to make a decision to change. But I believe, even like your daughter, like even when you read it, immediately the response she had is amazing. And now think about, she's going to be thinking about it, because you can't just erase something like that. And that's why I find powerful that these messages sometimes where people, they do need time to adjust to what they learned and process it. But it's the healing, like you called it. It's the process of healing, and it's amazing. Oh, I love that. So you would love to have it as a movie made as well, right?
Oh, it will be. I just know it will be. I see it already. That is going to happen, because it's going to reach an even greater audience through that media, that media form as well. I have no doubt about it. I would you like to hear just a little bit? Would you like to hear?
Yes, please.
I will read you the first chapter. It's short, but this will give you a sense of how the book was written and what Lily's voice is. It says, a few days before I turned 11, my grandma told me something surprising. She said the moment I was born was an incredibly special moment. She was right there when I was pulled from my mother's belly, and she immediately heard these words in her head. This child will be a peacemaker, the next Henry Kissinger of the world. Just what is a 10-year-old supposed to do with that kind of information? But before I get into all of that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Liliana Renee. My family and friends all call me Lily. I am Black and I am white. My half-sisters are Hispanic. I am kind, spiritual, loving, and fun. I am a good listener and I love to laugh. I'm a school cheerleader. I can do splits and back bends and love to do gymnastics. My friends trust me because they know that I will always be there for them in good times and bad. I was born during a major snowstorm. Cold white snow was falling in huge flakes with the wind whipping it around so hard that you couldn't even see the road. As it turns out, that was an appropriate beginning to the childhood I was soon to experience. You see, in the first 10 years of my life, I lived with 4 different families, a total of 8 different times. I'm going to share with you what has happened in my life so far, as I recall it. And I don't want to scare you because it all has a happy ending. Because of all that I have gone through, I have learned some incredibly valuable lessons already in my life. Maybe they can help you too. And so the second to last chapter, Vladi, is, I call it Lily's Life Lessons. And it's about all of the things that she has learned and she has internalized and created in order to not only cope with the experiences that she had, because that's the first step, is recognizing and coping, but also to overcome, to achieve, to be able to create the next phase of her life where the past is recognized, it's understood, but it's no longer an emotional trigger for her and does not keep her from growing into this amazing adult that she will be. When I asked her, when I told her about the what I heard when she was born, she asked me, she said, "Okay, Grandma, who's Henry Kissinger?"
Of course.
And so I explained that to her. And then a couple of days later, she said, "Grandma," she said, I think I know how I'm going to be a peacemaker in the world."
Of course.
And there's a chapter in the book that talks about the prejudice that she has already experienced because of her skin color. And I said, "Okay, Lily, how do you see yourself as being a peacemaker in the world?" She said, "I'm going to bring people of all different colors and all different races and all different parts of the world together. And I'm going to help them to understand that we are all children of God and that we are all beautiful in his eyes." And I know, I was just like, oh, that is so amazing. I put in the book what I had told her when she said that to me. I said, "Lily, you know what? I can see you doing that." Yes. I said, "I can see you standing in front of 50 people or 50,000 people or 500,000 people saying very clearly, my name is Lily. And when I was born, I didn't get to choose what color my skin was. And if you choose to get to know me and decide whether or not to like me, if you choose to like me, I'm fine with that. But if you choose to not get to know me and judge me based on the color of my skin, then I'm going to tell you right now, shame on you. Because you need to understand you and I are 99.5% genetically identical." And I can see this child doing that. I mean, she has a spirit that is unbelievable.
I have goosebumps. I call them God bumps, but
God bumps.
it's that I can feel it. I can feel she's going to do it. And at that age, it's just incredible that she understands. And it's the decision. She already made a decision. The way she speaks, and that is thanks to you as well, because you're the blessing who shows her this way. I mean, for us, we sometimes, we all went through the challenges, including myself, where you just hit the rock, and unless you make that irrevocable decision, where this is the decision where it doesn't matter what comes at you and how scary it is, that there is no, and we talked about determination, no way I'm taking the step back. I mean, you don't know how we're going to do it, but you're going to know that you're doing it, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to do it. And I can feel it from her. It's just the decision she's made, and she knows if she already decided who and what she is, and her purpose is done as well.
I agree. Wow. I knew when she came into the world that she was an old soul. I mean, I just knew that. And she expresses herself on a far more mature level than an 11-year-old, but she still is that 11-year-old child inside. And I have to remember that. I need to recognize that she has to be the child. She shouldn't have to be the adult all of the time. And she had to be the adult because of the situations that she was living in. And so it has been fascinating to me that those that I have shared this manuscript with, how it is touching people on such different levels, Vladi, because not only the children or the grandparents, but I have had friends who have read this book as I have been reaching out to find out what kind of impact it would have on people, that have said, one said, you know, I had to put the book down and have a good cry because it just broke my heart to see that. Another one said, I started crying because it reminded me of when I was growing up and what I went through. So these are adults that it's touching. And when it opens up the emotions, that's what allows for the healing to start taking place, if we know how to move into that next step of our healing. Another one said that her ex-husband treated their children so poorly and was very abusive towards them. And when she read it, she felt guilt, she felt grief, she felt anger, because she, you know, she was there and saw that and didn't feel that she could protect them. And
I love what you just said. I really love it. Do you know what? I just kind of had another message coming through, and it's about the message you're putting across. It's actually for parents as well to go like, you don't have to go through bad stuff. It's just the excuses we make, and it is. But what I've really learned is this becoming, like, you already are the source, and you're talking about creation and everything. This conversation is really we're very similar, and I love what you have to, when people decide to change, is what are you doing to change yourself now, because you're running away from that problem, you're still the same person. And what I realize, whatever I have to deal with in the future, I need to make myself a source, so whatever I'm facing, I'm already someone who I want to be, and I became it, and you become it, and then you can deal with anything that comes your way. Because otherwise, that's why people say, oh, I'm not ready to take this step, and I have this. You don't understand. But actually, yes, everybody understands. You know, we go, and you just putting the message beautifully.
Thank you. We all do have our story, and I have my story, and the challenges that I have overcome in life. And am I perfect in where I am? No. But do I like who I am? Yes. And you know, that is a fabulous place to get to, when you can look yourself in the eye and say, you know what? Okay. Every lesson that I've learned in life, and you and I talked about this before, but every lesson that I've learned in life, I would not go back and change. Not at all, because it has brought me to exactly who I am and where I am. And I would not be there if it were not for these lessons that I have learned, these adversities that I have faced, these challenges that have been put in front of me. And I will share that a few years ago, because I fell into a bit of a pity party. You know, at the time, my husband and I were raising 3 of my granddaughters. They were 2, 3, and 7 at the time. Lily was 7, and her half sisters were 2 and 3. And that was exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. And I fell into a bit of a pity party, and oh, poor me, oh, poor me. Even though we love them and we had so much fun with them. But I looked at it and I thought, you know, what a blessing I am able to give these children, to be there for them, to be that consistency, and to share that love with them. And I realized, stop it, Deb. I just said, stop it, Deb, just stop it. Because what I realized is that it is not about saying things like, oh, another challenge, another adversity. What I have done now is I've shifted my words to say, oh, look, another learning opportunity.
I love it. And this is exactly the shift we talked about. I mean, our beautiful audience missing on our beautiful talk before, but it is when you become a source, and you are a source. It's when you feel it, you appreciate who you were yesterday. You always appreciate who you were, because that's who you are. By you laugh, and are in love with who you are today. And when we talked about the self-love as well, and this is what kids need to get, when you need to love yourself, because when you love yourself, you have that self-belief what drives you to just be, and it's the being. You just be the person in a life source, in a life of another. That's what Neil actually said to me. He said, be the source in a life of another. And when you're a source of love, and you need to stop being seeking, because we keep searching and searching and seeking. If you're seeking, you're not actually being the source. You're not being the person or the love, joy, fascination, anything you want to be. You need to stop and actually be it and become it, and then you can give it. And it is a beautiful process. And I love your whole spiritual learnings as well.
Well, thank you. I do tell people, I said, oh, I just wanted to say that I tell people that we are human beings. We are not human doings.
Yes.
And so we need to stop, and we need to just enjoy where we are at the moment. And we need to understand that it's not about what we do in life. It's about who we are. It's about touching the hearts of others. And if you can get to the end of every day and say, you know what, I touched one person's heart today. Oh, if everybody did that, Vladi, what an amazing world we would live in. What an amazing world. Yeah.
It would be. But you know what? I do learn, especially being in this thriving environment, there are lots of people. And I think it's time where lots of love is actually spreading. So, and thanks to people like you as well, you know, like that message is really powerful. And Lily's so beautiful. I love her. And in fact, when you were talking about the call with, where you were on the call with Phil and Peggy, I was there. So I remember you talking about the book.
Oh, yes.
You wanted to do the book as the guide. And but isn't it like what you just said? We're spiritual beings in a human body, which means we actually get the message, and that is the message. It's not, I'm gonna write the book to be a millionaire or something. This is like a message, and being an author is who you become in a process of writing the book, not so much actually the outcome, because the outcome is just a part of the journey, and it's amazing. And your journey is just starting, and it's a beautiful, successful, and I can tell, I can feel it.
It's been a lot of fun, I have to say. I've met the most amazing people from all over the world through this process. And what I find is that we're all searching for the same thing, and that is peace. Yes. That is contentment, that is joy. Those are the things that are the most important things in life. Connections with other people. And Lily just automatically draws that to her. And it is fun to see her react to younger people, and she is so kind towards little children, and to respond to older people, and on a level that they just shake their head and say, "How old are you?" and to know that she's touching hearts as she goes throughout her life, and the blessings that she's bringing. So yes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we have to overcome, because the blessing is that we rise above. And that's what overcoming is. It's rising above and not allowing circumstances to dictate the joy or lack thereof that we experience in our life.
I love you said that. That's true. It's allowing. It's everything's about actually letting and allowing and accepting it, you know, and the life is, oh, this has been absolute pleasure, honor, joy. I love talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing message. And we'll be there for you when you launch it. We're becoming an international bestseller, and actually much more. This is just the beginning of a really phenomenal journey. And I thank you for doing such a brilliant, amazing work and impacting life, not just Lily's, but I mean, you're gonna really impact so many lives.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for taking the time to talk with me about this today, because it has been my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. I think I would just like to keep talking to you for the rest of the day because of your energy.
We can do more interviews. I can see this going on.
I will look forward to it.
Thank you so much, and have a beautiful week.
Thank you.
Bye.